So in 3, 2, 1, hello and welcome to the Next 100 Days podcast. My name is Graham Arrowsmith.
And my name's Kevin Appleby. So Graham, we're putting this episode out in National Apprenticeship Week. So we thought it'd be a good idea to chat to somebody who does an awful lot of training of people, particularly people coming through the apprenticeship scheme. So
we on the show this week, what we've got is James Lott. James, welcome to the Next 100 Days podcast.
Thank you, Graham. Thank you, Kevin. Really, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
So, James, you've been in business for around 17 years doing this type of thing. Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, so 17 years dedicated to helping young people thrive in fantastic careers. And them thriving means that their entrepreneur, scale-up organizations they work for also thrive.
Yeah, that sounds like a really good idea. I know that, I've had a few young people work for me over the last few years. And so I've got some experience of that, some good, some not so good. And basically, the thing is, it's really, for me, it's a really noble thing that entrepreneurs do when they can actually share some of their talent with somebody younger who's going to come through and actually benefit. Don't always stay with you, but they move on to better things.
Yes, I think, one of my clients described it really well. It was like it's a responsibility and a privilege to encourage the next generation of entrepreneurs and business people into business. So I think that kind of described it quite well.
So you're working with youngsters. Are the youngsters being employed by you and they're working on things for your clients, or are you helping your clients employ youngsters and you're helping train them?
Yes, so the latter there, Kevin. So although I do for myself and I practice what I preach, it's about supporting particularly entrepreneur-led scale-up organizations to become the kinds of places to attract the right kind of talent in the first place, to train it, to progress it and retain that talent. So as the organization grows, so that talent is improving and developing new skills, etc., and they stick with the organization.
On your hate list, is the school careers officer? Does that person reside there? Because I'm sure for many of us, have had really bad experiences. I don't know if they've got any better.
I think it's a pretty thankless task, to be honest, Graham. So my hate list would be too much. Sorry to rise to that one. You cannot possibly know what it's like to be in an organization unless you work in that organization. Sure. So I have worked significantly working with those in education as well to bring volunteers into the classroom. And that's been an amazing experience. So bringing entrepreneurs, employers, large and small, FTSE 100s, etc., into the classroom to help both bring a curriculum alive, but also to provide context. And there's lots of very clear research around how you can very positively influence the future career and the future earnings of young people simply by introducing them to people from the workplace at a time when they're really things. So I think that's what you need to do.
That sounds a bit like, though, it sounds like, because I don't know how many schools actually do this and actually bring people in, because that seems like a really good thing to do. And yes, I'm sure it would inspire a number of kids. I don't know whether it would inspire them to divert from going through to university and then maybe picking up, or would it actually, nowadays, when the university costs so much money, would it actually perhaps encourage them to launch into an apprenticeship as opposed to going to universities? Is that almost part and parcel of this sort of the business person going into schools, almost to give them an option?
Yeah, I think that's a really wise observation, actually, Graham. And I think that's a really important thing. Unfortunately, schools are dominated by people that went through school, went to university, and then chose their career, which was back in school. Yeah. And so they're very blinkered about where that somebody can launch their career and in the way that they can launch their career.
Yeah.
And being able to deposit people in that have different career paths is really important, actually, to open their eyes to the opportunities. And of course, apprenticeships is, in 2017, all of the apprenticeships changed. They became much more relevant to employers, much more exciting to employers, and much more diverse in terms of what you could do, and much better funded, actually. And at the same time, you've got very talented young people at aged 18 coming out thinking, well, I could go to university, but actually I can go and do a degree apprenticeship with an employer, have no debt, and learn loads, and have loads of money in my wallet or my purse, so I can head off to see my mates at university at the weekend. And so there are very bright young people thinking that might be a route for them as well.
Tell me a little bit more about that, James. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm looking for a potential assistant, and I can get a hold of a person who's leaving school, is potentially going to go through a training regime that might be a degree equivalent, and there's funding there. How does it all work?
So there's worth busting a few myths. So an apprentice can be any age, literally any age over 16. For most entrepreneurial type businesses, I wouldn't take anybody younger than 18. You do a lot of growing up between 16 and 18. Interestingly, for the apprenticeship that we run, which is in digital marketing, the vast majority of our apprentices are graduates. They've been through university, come out the other side, and then have not been able to find or launch their career in what they're passionate about, what they thought they were going to go and end up doing. So they might be doing well in some respects. They might be rising through into management roles within a retail outfit, but what they thought they were going to do was make videos and animations, or write words as a journalist, or design amazing products or graphics, and they weren't able to find the employment that they thought they were going to find. So there's all this fantastic talent out there that is looking to find a home for their passion, effectively. Now, the biggest challenge for an entrepreneur-led business with very little brand value with a young person and their parents out there, they can't compete and will never compete with the big employers and that kind of stuff and their big budgets. And so why would I go and work for a small business? Well, I'm going to go and work for a small business because I've got all this support from a well-respected training organization that is going to help me develop my career at that same time. And many people don't understand what it's like within a small business or in an entrepreneurial environment. It is only when they get in there that they realize, oh my gosh, like my voice is heard and I get lots of responsibility, and sometimes I make mistakes, but I can learn from those mistakes and I'm off and going again. And suddenly I'm like in many cases for us, within 6, 9, 12 months, they're supervising another apprentice underneath them because they've proven themselves so quickly and they were first in. They're joining up this career ladder they never expected to happen. So in answer to your question, Kevin, if I was an entrepreneur, if you're an entrepreneur, that tag of apprentice helps you to become attractive to the right kind of talent, the talent that wants to invest in their own future. And the other thing that's interesting is you're then able to tie them in for longer. So they're coming to join you, but they're not just doing the job with you. They're also accessing a whole learning program, etc., as they develop. So they're more likely to stay with you for at least that time. And then finally, because you have gone out of your way to invest in them and give them a chance, and they're developing very quickly with you as a very valued employee, but they also see it the other side. So I didn't have the experience and the qualifications you had, that you were looking for perhaps beforehand, but you gave me a chance. So I'm more likely to want to stay with you and continue my career with you.
I can see the thing about my experience with young people is that every single one of them has gone on to do something that's related. So in some ways, one's moved into a sort of a more in sort of Kevin's area, sort of an accountancy type thing, but the others have gone into marketing, and they're pursuing that with other bigger companies. But the thing about it is that it's clear that they've traded the sheer breadth, and like you said earlier, James, that you get so much experience because, frankly, there's you, and then there's a shed load of stuff to do, and then there's them, maybe a colleague or whatever, and effectively it's a question of divvying it up. And it's not sort of sink or swim. It's basic, because you have to have an appreciation of what might happen and what the standard is. But as long as you're coaching them through that, what I didn't realize at the time is that there is an opportunity to get your help. Now, you have a website called workingknowledge.org.uk, but you're not everywhere, are you? You're down in Bristol, aren't you?
I am down in Bristol. Yep.
So would you support people like, Kevin up in Northumberland, me in West Yorkshire? I mean, how does it work?
Yeah. So in terms of apprenticeships are delivered in England. So we are licensed to deliver apprenticeships in England, right, and our delivery is 100% virtual. So we can deliver anywhere in England.
Oh, I see. Okay. So basically people have to know that you exist, and there'll be a certain amount of money that you would need to put your way from our business, but then the rest of it is covered by government grants, or how does it work?
Yeah. So in our case, for digital marketing, so we have a digital marketing academy, and it's for those entrepreneurs that want to build their marketing in-house, build their capability in-house. Right. And what the cost of that, so our academy is £11,000, of which the government picks up 10,450. So the employer themselves contributes 5%, £550, and then we're able to access the government funding to support the rest of the academy.
Wow, sounds like a really good deal.
That's a good deal.
And how long does that last then, James?
It's a 15-month program, our program.
And so what's that, 1 day a week or something like that?
Yeah, so everything around apprenticeships is you have to consider that it's 1 day a week. And that comes back from the old style of apprenticeship where you went to college 1 day a week, yeah, on day release. Yeah. It's ours isn't delivered like that, but you must think that it's kind of 1 day a week. The reality is that all of our delivery is done very much in context. So we don't do case studies at all. So it's let's teach you something, go and apply it to the organization, and now come back with a whole bunch of questions having applied it, and say, well, I tried this, but it didn't do what I was expecting it to do. So how do I make it do this? And therefore the learning is kinesthetic learning. It's learning by doing. So you are much more susceptible to that learning because it's actually helping you achieve your role, and you're coming with questions wanting answers rather than trying to be a blank canvas. And so that's the way that we teach. So you need to be a full-time marketer to generate enough questions to then be able to utilize my highly experienced trainers to the full.
So somebody who's working for the organization who might be doing something more, let's say, accountancy focused, they're not going to pick up. They're just not going to come onto your course, are they?
No, if their predominant role was accountancy, that's not relevant. So we've got plenty of examples where somebody had started working part-time through an agency or whatever in the warehouse. Right. They've been recognized by the business owner as, wow, you're a good person. Yeah. What you're interested in? Oh, I'm really interested in marketing, but I don't want to go to university, or I tried university and it didn't work for me, or whatever. And they're sort of saying, well, how about this? How about I train you through an apprenticeship? So they may be working in there already. Lots of people have got Kickstarters, obviously, over the last few years, and that's coming to an end now. But lots of people have got Kickstarters and they want to hang on to them. The apprenticeship is a really good way of doing that as well. So if they were doing an administrative role, or they may have been dabbling a little bit with marketing. Sometimes you've got people that, and this often happens within small businesses, you're the youngest here, you understand social media, you can handle our digital marketing. Now, handling, I can see what you're saying there, Graham, but handling the digital marketing for a business is not the same as handling your social life through your social media. And yes, they get hold of the technology really quickly, but they need to be led down a path in order to be able to do it. And then the final way in terms of a candidate is that the majority of our clients ask us to go and find somebody for them. And we will go out and find somebody with the right potential and the right motivation, the right ambition, and the right cultural fit to that organization.
So the person that you find, though, James, I mean, if they're 18, with due respect, they'll know diddly squat about the things you're going to teach them. I mean, sure, like you said, they might use Instagram, but the point is that's not quite the same as understanding that as a marketing channel and the kind of things that I'm sure that you teach. So how do you spot that perfect 18-year-old who might come into your business or Kevin's business or whatever? How do you help in that respect? Do you sort of line up and take one step forward if you like marketing? I don't know, what is it, what is there a skill that you're deploying there?
Yeah, I think it's a skill based on experience. So we've worked with over 30,000 young people now, and identifying what talent looks like cannot be illustrated on a 1 or 2 page CV.
No.
It isn't illustrated by the GCSE or A-level or BTEC results that you've got, or your degree result even. It isn't illustrated by a Duke of Edinburgh or whatever, through that kind of stuff. So what we really want to know is somebody's potential and somebody's character. And so what we do, we never share CVs with our clients beforehand. We run assessment, like a graduate assessment center. We run assessment centers. Prior to an assessment center, we get the candidates or the hand-picked ones we've whittled down to do activities for our clients, which will highlight what they're capable of. That might be understand this technical piece. We're a business that does 3D printing, let's say. And so understand this technical brief, and I want you to create something that a layman could understand what we could offer them, who runs a retail product design organization or something like that, so company. And so they have to understand that brief. They have to go and do a whole bunch of research. They have to create something that's got some potential, and then they have to deliver it on time. Those are 4 key things we want to know if they're to be a great digital marketer within that organization.
I wish you lived next door to me. I'd hire you in a second. I think this is great stuff. It's music to my ears, and I think the fact is you don't need to live next door to me, because I just need to know you exist, and I'll be like lots of other business people now listening to this show, thinking, you know what, this James Lott can really help us, because I really like the idea that you take time to find characters, because I have to say I've done an awful lot of that in recent years, and I've met a lot of people, and I've probably made some really good judgments and some not so good judgments, but it's always been on a sort of a kind of here's an idea, this is what I want you to do. It's not just a sort of an interview, and it's not just looking through the CV. Yeah, I mean, you'd look through that, but you wouldn't judge somebody on that. It would be just another piece of evidence. But in your case, I like the idea of an assessment center. Kevin, I mean, is this music to your ears? I mean,
it certainly is.
You're going to hire him, aren't you?
I'm listening to this with quite a lot of interest, because I've got something at the back of my mind that I'll probably talk to James about after we've recorded the podcast. But
be brave, Kevin.
James, tell me, and the Kickstarter is coming to a close, but so what is the cost now of hiring an apprentice?
That's a very good
cost
question.
Me as an organisation.
So we are very much advocates. You can get away with paying very little if somebody is an apprentice, but don't expect great results if you do that. So we are advocates of paying a decent salary, but we're also advocates of creating a very transparent environment where somebody can improve their salary on completion of key performance indicators. So now you've got KPIs, you've got clear milestones that they're working towards. So the quick answer to your question, Kevin, is the national average for an entry-level digital marketer is £20,000 per year as a salary. We say start them on £16,000, and then every 4 months you've got it tagged to a particular milestone. So and you would agree that with the marketing coach that's supporting you as a manager and your apprentice. You'd agree what the milestones are, so it's really clear. And then every 4 months, if they've hit those milestones, the salary goes up by 1,000. Our program's 15 months long, so at graduation from our academy, they then reach the £20,000 mark.
I mean, looking at the age and apprenticeship stage wages here, I mean, if you've got somebody around 18 quid, it's less than £5 an hour, isn't it? I mean, so it's nowhere near 16 or £20,000. So in other words, if you were paying them what the law says you should pay them, then it'd be nowhere near that kind of level of income. So are you suggesting that you probably double that amount for somebody who's 18?
Yeah. So you pay, I think it works out at just shy of £8 an hour.
Right.
That's where they're starting. And right. You can get away if they happen to be 18 or paying less. If they are, which they tend to be on our program, they tend to be older with more life experience, whether that's through university or whatever. You tend to pay around about the national minimum wage level for them, which is lower for an apprentice. So you can pay less, but it's a very dangerous point to pay, particularly if it's such an essential part of the business.
And as the employer, James, I would be paying 100% of that salary.
Yes.
There's no government subsidy.
Yeah. The only one that you get is if they are under 25, which most are, then you don't pay employers NIC.
Right.
So on a salary of around about that value, about 18 grand, then that's a saving of about £1,300. So the total salary, that's the total cost.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So I mean, there is an incentive there, and the other thing is that you'd really want them to sort of contribute at least that amount of money back into the company, bringing through their efforts. Now, particularly in the area that you're covering here in terms of digital marketing, I mean, there's a causal link there, isn't there? So effectively, you can actually get them to, with your help, they would be starting to show some sort of results after how long?
Yes. And I think that's where we can really help the entrepreneur. We can really help the business owner, because many are reluctant many aren't marketers themselves and don't understand marketing. So they're unlikely to want to take somebody on with inexperience in marketing, because how can I train or support them? So they then look about, well, I want to take a more experienced person on, but then they look at the price tag and think, well, that's too much. So then they move to a freelance idea and whether that's going to work for them. But the kinds of people that we work with like the idea of growing their own. They're very nurturing type characters. They want to build the team. They want to build it in-house and build the value in-house. And there's a lot you'll know as well, Graham. There's from a marketing perspective, living and breathing and working full-time in an organization, you get much more of the stories and the idea from a marketing to create the content and that kind of stuff if you're living and breathing it. So we're there to really provide that support right the way through the process. So in effect, our academy, yes, it's attached to an apprenticeship. Yes, there is a young person that is developing these skills, but really the whole business is going through the academy, and we're setting up a marketing operation in-house that is really effective. It's setting up the right rhythms. So there's lots of marketing going out frequently in the right way, in the right voice.
And with thousands of kids that you've put through, I'm saying kids, but they are relative to Kevin's age and mine as well. I mean, believe it or not.
Mine too.
But with all those young people that you've helped, would you say that they've returned a return on the investment of, well, your scheme, which is one thing, but that's a few £100, but maybe another 20,000 for their employment over a year, would they typically, in your estimation, be starting to return that to the turnovers of the companies that are employing them?
Undoubtedly, but not always in cash terms. And that's what's important here. So we've got examples of within 6 months, one of our apprentices has come in and they're doing that company's doing £100,000 more business than they were 6 months previously. They're knocking back on our door. Can I have another one? And then another one. Yeah. And this is amazing. But you've got to have the right product in the right sector to be able to, how long is your sales cycle? Yes. Often when we're talking to our business owners, they don't even know how long their sales cycle is before we even start. So it's difficult to say the ROI before. But also there is this kind of less tangible value of the majority of the businesses we work with are led by very passionate entrepreneurs that are changing the world in their own little way, in their own little business area. And their voice is not being heard. And it keeps them awake at night. The fact that people appear in the news and they know less than they do, and they want to get their ideas around there because it really matters to them. So the very fact that suddenly their voice is being heard and there is interaction out there, regardless of whether the money is necessarily coming in the short term, then that is providing huge value to them, even if they're sleeping better. It's providing huge value that way.
Yeah, it is a balance, isn't it? I mean, Kevin, when you're thinking about this, you'll be balancing the fact that it's a bit like this podcast. We give back. We don't really monetize the podcast. It every now and again the light comes on. But the point is, there's a sort of a giving back that we're also providing a platform for other people. Today, it's you. So, but there's that giving back thing, and that's the same with people coming into your business. But there's kind of hope that every now and again the light will come on, and that some income would come our way. So you've got to balance that, I guess, Kevin, don't you?
You do, definitely. I suppose one thing that I'm interested in right now is you're taking somebody who's got no or little marketing knowledge, putting them through a program for 16 months, which is effectively going to help them develop the marketing strategy within their organization. What if there's already somebody who's quite reasonable at marketing in there and is already doing quite a bit of stuff? How would that then work for the person who's the apprentice?
Mm-hmm. So are you saying that there is an experienced marketer there that wants somebody to come and help them?
Yes.
Do the lower level piece. Okay. So that happens. Definitely. We just picked up a client last week exactly in that situation. So where we're really supporting them is we're a small business and we're really busy. And my role as marketing manager of that organization, I would find it really hard to be able to work out how I bring somebody on. And I might be an inexperienced manager as well. I might not have managed anyone beforehand as well. So we're really that our program therefore provides a real structure, and it's like an extended induction program for them to bring on this young person and provide the value. And so part of our process is that the manager has 30 minutes one-on-one with the coach once a month. And they can bring up any challenges they might have with managing that individual as well, because they might not be experienced within that. They can also bring up I've got in 3 months' time, we're planning this big marketing campaign, and how can we bring up the skills of our apprentice so that they're going to be able to provide great value at that moment, and who can we bring in from working knowledge to support that process to get that person ready. So we kind of provide them with a whole marketing department that sits around this individual. So they might, in fact, one of my clients said, well, why would I employ a single marketer when I can have a whole department? And that's often how it is. The apprentice joins a group of 8 to 10 other apprentices working in other organizations. Each group has a marketing coach that is there to support the development of that group. And they are constantly bouncing ideas off. As you know, Graham, it's not an exact science, marketing, is it? It's a lot of brainstorming and putting things out there, and really having that group, that peer group, to bounce ideas off, and the experienced marketing coach. Yeah. And then that group is visited by an expert every month. So it might be an expert in SEO, it might be an expert in pay-per-click advertising, it might be an expert in CRM, for instance. Yeah. And so those are experts with 15, 20, 25 years worth of experience in that area. So you get this consultant that comes in that is looking at your business in a specific area once a month. So one of the things we work with the manager, Kevin, if there's a marketing manager in there already, just like, well, in 4 months' time, we're going to be focused on your SEO. So be prepared that that's coming up. Or in 3 months' time, we're working on your website, or whatever it might be. So they can plan what they're going to be looking at, with the benefit of all of this support around them.
Sounds great. I mean, I took a quick look at your website, and I noticed one of our recent previous guests, who's been on a couple of times, Dominic Monkhouse. One of his young people came through your academy as well. So, and the only reason I know, I think she might well be French.
Irene.
That's right. If you say it in the way in which it's written, it sounds like she's from Wigan, but it's actually Irene. So no, but the nice thing is that and what a fantastic role model Dominic will be for her, because effectively, what a great businessman he is. But the kind of people that you've got, when you look at them, they're all, they've got the futures in front of them. Usually really bright people. So you've really picked them well. Is there a magic, if you had to almost say to other business people listening to this and thinking, I'm not so sure about this, I'm not really sure if I want to commit to this or not, is it really for me? What are the kind of 2 or 3 things that you would say to them to say, look, it is for you, take the leap. I'm thinking about Kevin here, take the leap, get on with it, and you might have somebody of an Irene sort of capability working for you in short order that can really transform, or at least deliver the kinds of things that you want.
I think, first of all, you've got to be an organization that wants growth, wants to scale, because if you're going to attract in somebody who's super ambitious, then if you want to scale, they want to be on that journey with you. So if you are an organization that's looking to grow and looking to scale, then you can continually offer opportunities, increase responsibility for somebody coming and joining your organization. Okay. You also need to look at yourself and think, do I like the idea of growing my own? Yeah. Bringing people into this environment. Am I a nurturing type character? If I want oven ready, I can go elsewhere and try somebody else where somebody else has got that experience. It doesn't always work out, does it? At any point of recruitment, it doesn't always work out. Yeah. But you can go and pay more money to go and get somebody with more experience. But you are getting them just on their own, not as part of the whole group when you're doing that. So that was the thing. So are you a scale up and are you nurturing would be the 2 greatest thing. And the third thing is around marketing. So do you believe that marketing is important to you as an organization? Is digital marketing in particular important to you as an organization? And when you look at marketing, is it that you're going to really invest and really go for it? Because our academy, it is, people can't, the business owner can't come to us and say, James, brilliant, you've sorted my marketing right, I'm over here to sort out something else now. Because that's not the deal. The deal is the whole organization is going through our academy. And entrepreneur, business owner, you're not off the hook. Yeah. Because if you've got things in your head, you've got things to say, your customers, your product, your service better than anybody else. If you want a voice for that, a megaphone for that, and to get that out, that's where we can really help.
So it does sound great, but in my eyes, there's I tend to work in the more in the offline media world, but that's not to say I don't have some touch in terms of digital. But I would be thinking in my business, I would be thinking about how that person can promote my business necessarily, and potentially add a few more strings to our solution for other people. But for many people, digital marketing is where it's at for other people. I don't necessarily subscribe to that thinking, because I think, I try to remain agnostic when it comes to media channels. But having said that, you've picked digital, and you've already mentioned websites, SEO, pay-per-click. What more? I mean, do you have other aspects? I picked out 3 there. We've had experts in all 3 on this show over the years, and it seems to me that there's a huge amount of content there that you're delivering.
Well, I think the first, yes, the apprenticeship that we're delivering is digital marketing, and digital marketing is sexy. It is, I need to get my digital marketing sorted. Is it fundamentally any different to marketing? No, it is marketing. It's just some other channels. And I think that's an important element. So if I describe the program to you, Graham, I think you'll get this from a marketing perspective anyway. So we start with analytics, actually, and we start with data, and establishing whether you are sending somebody a post thing and they're responding to that postal thing, or whether you're sending out an email and they're responding to that, or you're doing social media or whatever. The thing about marketing is I love all the creativity around marketing, but so what? Yeah. What difference is it making to my business? So the very first module they do is around data. And they set up all of the digital ways of like all the Google Analytics and all that kind of stuff. They set all that kind of stuff up.
Okay.
But they also learn how to ask questions of data. You can get data to answer anything that you want it to, but that's not actually necessarily informing you. Okay. So data is really important up front. The next thing we do is that we look at your existing customers, and we really drive down to who is your ideal customer or customers. All sounding familiar, I'm sure, Greg.
Yeah, no.
And so then come out with personas. And then third, how do you clarify your message, however you're sending it out, to that persona or personas? And we're big advocates of building a story brand, Donald Miller's book, which I'm sure you're aware of. Okay. And we're licensed to deliver that book and that methodology, which we really love. And using story as a way to get your message out to your particular personas. So that's the first 4 months is let's test and measure, see what works, what doesn't work. Let's find out who we're actually selling to and make sure we really know who they are and we're selling to the right people. And then let's clarify the message so they're actually going to hear us. Then we go and apply that website, SEO, social media, email marketing, lead generators, CRMs, and pay-per-click advertising. Now, you could add direct mail to that list as well, but only because you've got that strong, proper marketing up front to know whether it's right or wrong for you.
Got you. Okay. So, Kevin, are you sold?
Makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I love the structure of that syllabus. Actually, it's that you've actually just predicted my next question and answered it before I asked it. Talk me through the 16 months. That's fairly comprehensive, and I guess taking that approach where it's all general marketing stuff to start off with, it therefore doesn't really matter what industry your business is in.
No,
it doesn't really matter what sort of customers you're targeting, because you're going to learn all about who the customer is, what the customer persona is, the sort of things they respond to. And it's all going to be focused on that up front. And the thing I love about this is that you're not in a classroom doing this in theory, using a whole set of case studies. You're doing it for real on a business that you can touch and feel and see what's happening. You've sold me on the concept of 16 months.
Many years ago, I did a part-time MBA at Bradford University, and I thoroughly enjoyed it, but I was working. and I had a company that I could apply. We had a session on, HR. The following day, I was firing somebody. It wasn't quite as joyful as that, but the point is, it was a sort of, you could apply the learning almost immediately, or bring something of relevance to the conversations that you were having around that particular topic. For me, working at the same time as learning is an absolute must for almost anybody. For all us three, for sure, that you never stop until you stop. And at that point, the career's over, retire, do whatever else. But for me, it's a constant level of learning all the time. Now, so I think you're onto something, and well, I know you are. You've been doing it for 17 years, and you've got some very, very strong. But how many other people are doing exactly what you're doing? Are there 20 other people doing the same sort of thing?
There are lots of training providers out there delivering apprenticeships of all sorts, and we've focused on digital marketing here, but your listeners should also be out there thinking, well, how else? In fact, we ran an assessment center today for an architectural practice. They recruited for their digital marketer. Yeah. They then went to one of the other candidates and said, actually, we'd really like you. We think you'd make a really good architect. And we're going to go and find an architectural apprenticeship for you to come and join us, which was a fantastic result, actually. So I really urge people to think about apprenticeships as a way. Now, one of the key things that changed in 2017, when following Lord Sainsbury's review of skills in the UK, was to push the control, the ownership of an apprenticeship to the employer. It used to rest with the training provider, and that promoted a pack 'em high, sell 'em cheap type of approach. You can't access cheap labor unless you come through me, and this is the program I'm giving you. Now the tables are very much turned, whereby the way apprenticeships are written enables a training provider to be very flexible about the way that they deliver. I couldn't have delivered our program pre-2017. Post-2017, I can deliver the program how I think entrepreneur-led scale-up organizations want to receive this kind of learning in their organization. So I think it's really important as an entrepreneur to go out and talk with a number of different training providers. Now, are there people doing the same stuff as us? Yes, lots of people are delivering digital marketing. Yeah. Are they delivering in the same way we're delivering it? Yeah. I haven't found anyone that's doing it the way that we're doing it.
Well, it's quite clear that you're the best there is. So don't bother looking any further. No, it's our copper bottom guarantee, isn't it, Kevin? So if we say it, it's true. So
that must be true if we've said it, Greg. Absolutely, yes.
No. But I think you've, in the nicest possible way, said enough to convince people to at least have a conversation, at least consider it as an option. Because I think if you're that type of person, then and there's room within this organization that you want to grow and maybe is growing, you should be having a conversation with James Lott. So I guess at that point, James, we've got to a place now, which is, we've got really the last question I think we can probably put into this podcast, because we've got to sort of wind things up a little. But if you had to sort of speak to the parents, perhaps, of young people, and because we kind of addressed the business side of it, but if you spoke to the parents of young people, and you had a minute or so to get across the reasons why your kids should get involved with an apprenticeship, what would you say?
I have kids leaving school now, so I'm right there. We have friends of children so I have this conversation frequently. I'm frequently asked this. I think education, quite rightly, there are more opportunities for our young people. And, when I was growing up, and when I first went to university, actually, it was still university grants, and not many people went to university then. Then it became much more, quite rightly, everyone should have more opportunity for education. Mm-hmm. But then it's not right for everybody. Mm-hmm. And as a parent, opening your children's eyes to the feast of opportunity that are out there to find the right way for them to launch their career is really what we're doing as parents. That's what it's all about, isn't it? Preparing them to go and launch themselves on the world, build a career, build a life, be happy. And university isn't necessarily going to be the right way for them. Or they might choose to go to university and think when they get there, it isn't the right for them. Or they might complete university and graduate from university and still not have the opportunities presented to them. At all three moments at all three moments, an apprenticeship could well be the answer for them.
I do like that idea, and I like the idea that on your site you've kind of got role models, or at least pictures of people who've done the thing. It seems to me there's a space somewhere where they should be speaking, and probably are. You've probably got it somewhere, but where they can actually become, if you like, advocates for the whole tranche of people. And I think, given I'm a great Brexit supporter, etc. I want Great Britain to do really well, as we appear to be doing already. But the youth will be the ones that will trigger it to get even better. And I think it's this area is one area where, even with digital marketing, they can make a big impact on their businesses and the value of our country going forward.
Absolutely. I totally agree with that. And so much of what I do, why I do what I do, is because I believe in the innovation, creativity, and energy of youth. And that is the lifeblood. That's the thing that can really drive our businesses, and particularly our entrepreneur-led small businesses, and really help them scale.
Well, I don't know about you, Kevin, but James, thank you very, very much indeed for joining us today on the Next 100 Days podcast.
Thank you so much. I've enjoyed it.
Well, Graham, that's been an eye-opener for me this afternoon. I didn't realise that such apprenticeships existed. And I was for quite a while a trustee at Newcastle College, which is a huge FE college in the northeast. And one of the things we were always talking about as governors were the apprentice schemes going on around the college. But they always seem to be the college looking for big employers to partner with. And it was all being still done on the old-fashioned idea of a day release back to college and physically being in the premises and so on. And I really didn't realise that you could do this sort of thing. And
you can. I'm aware of it. It's a slightly bigger commitment than, for instance, the Kickstarter scheme. But I think anybody listening to this now, I think you've missed the boat on Kickstarter. I mean, I think the applications were, due in at the end of last month, which would have been January 22. So although the scheme kind of closes down a little bit later, you're a bit late for that particular scheme. But apprenticeships are not. And I think something, and the way in which James has highlighted the way, how you can actually use the learnings that you're going to get, particularly about digital marketing. And actually, it's really marketing. You can tell from James's experiences. And they've got a good grounding. I kept thinking to myself that compare that person getting that kind of input from that range of experts for a year and a half versus somebody who does a 10-week module on a ballet degree or whatever, and at the end of the day, they get a little bit of marketing experience, but frankly, they know zip at the end of it. And it's too, irrelevant in a sense. It's too far away from reality. Whereas this is about, hey, this is what we're talking about here, SEO or Google Analytics or whatever it is. Go and have a look at your own. And so, in other words, you come prepared. You've got real information that you can share. I've got a real problem with this. How do I get over that? What a way of learning!
Yeah, and I just know, Graham, my own personal style of learning isn't sitting in a classroom learning about stuff. It's knowing that I've got something I need to do, and it's going out there and finding out and working out exactly how to do it.
Yeah,
and that's basically what this is providing. You are in your own employer's business. You know what that business is. You've been charged with certain things. Yeah. Now, here we are on a very, very practical, educational forum that you can find out exactly how to do those things in quite a professional way. I just think it's a fantastic way to learn.
I think it balances the conversation we had with David Spicer a few weeks ago, from Bradford University. And that was a great podcast. And I have to say, I really enjoyed the conversation we had with David. And we certainly I'm not saying don't go to university, but it is a choice. It's something that you, at that age, 18 or so, you have a fork in the road. Do I do what the herd is doing? My peer herd, if you like. Many people, of course, don't even think about it. So there's a natural sort of, shall we say, group of people who are ripe for apprenticeships. But then there's going to be a bunch of people who are thinking about university, but then saying, goodness, that's going to cost either my family or me a shed load of money, repaying the loans, etc., etc., etc. Even though there's a much wider thing that they go through, that sort of rite of passage through university life and, learning to live with others and all the rest of that. So there are arguments for both sides. And I have to say, it was a very, very, very appealing conversation about apprenticeships. And we've just not had that, Kevin.
Exactly. But, just taking that conversation further and contrasting what we've talked about today with the podcast a couple of weeks ago with David. And I can see reasons to use both as a business. And part of our marketing strategy going forward will be that we want to be seen as thought leaders in our particular area, which is going to involve publishing a number of white papers. Well, I could quite easily see going along to somebody like David and finding the person that wants to put a dissertation together that might coincide with one of the white papers that we want to release.
Great idea.
But at the same time, you've got the white paper, you've put it together. Well, there's an awful lot of taking that effective dissertation piece that's got all of the information in it and turning that into the messages and so on that actually appeal to people that would get them to read it. Think about all the channels you're going to use to put it out, to publicize it and so on. They're two very, very different sets of requirements that come together.
Another recent guest, and John Lamerton, talking about evergreen assets, and in effect take the dissertation and salami slice it in two different, use it in different ways. And I think there's a huge amount of opportunity working with young people, bright young people who want to do well with in their lives. So it's on the entrepreneurs listening to this to give them a chance. So if you've enjoyed it today, then make sure that you follow up with workingknowledge.org.uk and talk to James Lott. Well, Kevin, I've been Graham Arrowsmith today.
I've been Kevin Appleby. Goodbye.
Goodbye.